The Western Cape province is ranked the least safe province for women. This is according to a survey done on 6,500 women by First for Women Insurance. The survey also found that only 3.6% of South African women feel safe in the provinces they live. Now, for a reaction on this, I'm joined by Reagen Allen, Western Cape MEC for Safety and Police Oversight. MEC Allen, thank you so much for joining us this evening at News at Prime. Now, your fight against crime in the province, whilst you are making efforts, is still lagging behind if you're being ranked the lowest in the country in terms of women feeling safe. What's your reaction to the survey?
Thank you so much for bringing us into this particular conversation. These are the difficult conversations that we want to have, considering that we are wanting to ensure that our province is ultimately safe, not only for women, for children, and for the elderly, but for each and every person that lives in our province. We have taken note of this particular survey. I've already discussed this particular results with our provincial commissioner because we are wanting to ensure that the mandate of the South African Police Service and our oversight role should always lead to better service delivery. But also, we are stepping up in terms of our oversight role, making sure that where we monitor the implementation of the Domestic Violence Act, for example, but also wanting to ensure that our collaboration with the South African Police Service, with neighborhood watches, with CPFs is ramped up, and we would never shy away from these difficult conversations.
And they are difficult conversations, MEC, because, you know, the safety of women and children is important. But this survey also is pretty much in line with what the official SAPS crime stats report states. Because when we look at those crime stats, Mfuleni and Nyanga are in the city of Cape Town, both at number 1 and 2 in terms of contact crime ratings in the country.
We have always maintained in our province to just paint an entire picture. We have advocated for policing powers to be devolved to a provincial level so that we can ultimately implement our policing needs and priorities. Our current dispensation in the Constitution, where policing is at a national level, ultimately national policy informs what happens in a province. We have on that occasion, on our national policing policy, advocated that we actually need the powers to ensure that we can effectively manage the South African Police Service in our province. But be that on the one hand, we have still stepped up on the other hand, knowing that we are needing to work in areas like Mfuleni and the station that you have mentioned. I've personally visited that station to ensure that we can actually get a colonel-level commander that actually monitors the implementation of the Domestic Violence Act, because we are wanting to ensure that our women are ultimately safer. But we definitely have a long way to go. If I listen to your question attentively, the one point I do want to stress that since 2019 up until 2023 last year, the Western Cape was actually the only province that saw a reduction in murder per capita across our 4 priority provinces. And the 4 priority provinces is the Western Cape, it's Gauteng, it's KZN, and the Eastern Cape. So we're making strides in that regard, but I would be the first one to say I know we have a very long way to go. And in having these discussions is part of that process, because we know in moving forward, working in a whole of government approach, we are wanting to ultimately do everything in our power to protect our women, to make sure that women can feel safer, and ultimately bring about stability in our priority areas.
And while the slight drop may be welcomed, you know, the problems still persist anyway. But MEC, you know, when we speak about you mentioning, you know, the talk of decentralizing of the police as well, to give the province powers to better police as well, this is something that you have mentioned time and time again. But the question is, you know, when we look at these areas that have problems, Mfuleni, Khayelitsha, Nyanga, Gugulethu, and Delft, these are typically the township areas in the city of Cape Town and the Western Cape. What is it that you aren't getting right with townships?
Thank you. Thank you for this question. I think we are very clear in our communication on this, that when we look at the environmental design in some of those communities, it is problematic. Also, if I look at the area where I'm from, in Mitchell's Plain, we see pockets of of areas that is also violent towards women and men that ultimately personify evil. So I want to answer that in 2 points. Our clear call is also for men to actually stand up and be counted and actually play a role towards making sure that our women are not abused, that our women are not killed, and that our women are ultimately not beaten to a pulp. We want men to stand up. Predominantly, the data shows us that 90% of those cases is where the perpetrator is a man. So we want men to stand up. But on the other hand, we are wanting to ensure that when there is any particular female that is vulnerable, that the necessary resources must be provided to her. So we work closely with the Department of Social Development so that we have psychosocial relief for that particular persons. The province now also has the most of our safe houses that is on record for women that is vulnerable and that is being abused. So this province has a number of safe houses that is managed by the Department of Social Development, and we have consistently advocated to ensure that, yes, on the one hand, we are needing to step up and step in, but on the other hand, work in communities that is vulnerable due to the makeup. Umfuleni, for example, we have seen grew by population in the last 10 years, 100-fold. But we have seen the same amount of SAPS members deployed for that particular precinct. Hence, we have stepped in and deployed our relief officers to work in partnership with SAPS in the Mfuleni area as well. But these are conversations that we will continue to have, but also the interventions to make sure that social development, the work that our department does in oversight, that should always lead to better service delivery, is ramped up so that females can be more protected, but also feel more safe in our province. But we know we care about females across the entire country, and we see this trend escalating across our country.
And MEC Allen, you mentioned behavioral changes that need to take place as well, which may take a while before people start changing behaviors and how they treat women as well when we talk about GBV. But, these aren't the only crimes that are affected, that women are affected by when it comes to GBV. There's in-contact crimes. There's, of course, house robberies. And also the survey found that many women don't feel safe while they are walking alone, whether it's at night or during the day, whether they live alone as well, they don't feel safe there. So there's a whole array of other crimes that women face as well. But I want to again focus on these townships because, it seems year on year, even though there are some progresses, they still rank amongst the highest in the country when it comes to crime. What else can be done and what other efforts are being made to target crimes in those areas? Is the Western Cape government taking it as a priority to face and tackle crimes specifically in the townships?
Thank you for the phrasing of this question. I think I want to state categorically that in terms of our priorities in the Western Cape, safety and the safety of females, the elderly and children is a high priority. Hence, the Premier has demanded the role that each and every MEC plays in terms of safety. So in terms of women, and even when I look at the scenarios that you have sketched, there is a number of females that is even feeling unsafe when they are driving a vehicle on our road, considering that we have seen a number of hotspot areas where there is car robberies and kidnappings and hijackings. So we do look at that in a holistic point to ensure that we can implement our interventions. We discuss our data-led and our evidence-based approach to know where our officers need to be, at what time of the day, and at what specific day when we monitor the trends on when these crimes occur that do affect women. So it's definitely where we are seeing that in some of our areas we are needing to ramp it up even further, like in the Delft, in the Mfuleni areas. But definitely, that is a concerted effort that will continue from our side. And I want to tell, and anyone listening to me now, it is one that we will not shy away from. It is a priority that we will continue to advocate for, to have the necessary resources so that women can feel safe.
Really do appreciate your time. The road will be a long one ahead, so good luck to you. Thank you for joining us this evening on News at Prime.